Vincent Akwadi, DG Cross River Stemmer, to give us the paper on developing a regional capacity for disaster response in the South Zone.
First of all, make one or two comments on the last presentation. I want to say that Cross River State has an already established emergency management agency. In fact, the state is the first to establish a SEMA, followed by Ado State and the rest. And I also want to observe that one of the slides for which Professor Uyegun apologized for an inclusion, that's including Anambra State in the list of Niger Delta states. He did not, in the list of South states, he didn't say anything about the exclusion of two states from that list. That's Cross River State and Akwa Ibom State. Well, I am sure that everybody here in this hall knows a lot about Niger Delta region of the South states. But I'll just summarize that the Niger Delta is what is considered as the most oil-rich region in Nigeria, comprising mainly Akwa Ibom State, Bayelsa State, Cross River State, Delta, Edo, and River states, and where a lot of environmentally based activities are undertaken. Consequent upon such activities, which are determined by the geographical composition of the region, such as vegetation and soil content, these South states are now plagued with the largest disaster portfolio among the 6 geopolitical regions. The Niger Delta harbors a high percentage of the nation's coastal, tropical rain and mangrove forests, where the most obnoxious logging activity takes place. Some of such consequences, that the consequences of these logging activities include accelerated and increased windstorm disaster and then deforestation. We all agree that in the last millennium, we had rare cases of windstorm in the South. But in this millennium, we discovered that windstorm, which is a phenomenon that occurs outside tropical rainforest areas, are more prevalent now in the South region. The South region is the source of the larger percentage of Nigeria's oil and the oil revenue, and can be described as the goose that lays the nation's golden egg. But paradoxically, while the rest of the country sings praise to God Almighty for blessing Nigeria with oil of the Niger Delta, of course, from which money they have derived so much wealth and development, the people of South are crying to the same God for redemption from poverty and underdevelopment. However, we thank God for hearing the cry of our own cry in the South by constituting the present federal administration, which has taken a bold step to calm the nerves and then dry the tears to some extent, of course, of agitators by establishing programs like the Annual program and also establishing the Ministry of the Niger Delta. We are talking about building a capacity for the region. For the capacity of the region to be considered, we have to consider the capacity of the component states of this region. In recent time, we have noticed the prevalence of strange disasters, most of which constitute emergency in the Niger Delta. They include drought, hailstone, windstorm, and petroleum-related fire, as well as landslides. You will agree with me that Disasters like drought and hailstone are alien to regions like this. These are phenomena that could be found in arid and semi-arid areas, but we have had them at 1 or 2 times recorded in some states in the south-south geopolitical zone of the country. With all these things happening, you see that it is a sign of changing times in the environment. And this calls for concerted effort towards improving the capacity of citizens of this region to respond to disasters for reduced vulnerability and effective mitigation. In considering the region's disaster response capacity, it is necessary to first examine the ability of the constituent states. Like I've said, the state's limit of disaster management is between levels 1 and 2 disasters. And that not all the 36 states of the Federation have established their SEMAs. The last speaker had said that. But some who have established it, still have some deficiencies. There are 2 questions that come to be in the case of establishment of SEMA. How do these unwilling states, that these states that have not established their SEMAs, in spite of their advocacy that can be dated back to 12 years from today? And then what capacity do those states that have established their SEMAs possess? The fact remains that each state in this region has been responsible for responding to disasters, notably by relief delivery and request for assistance from the National Emergency Management Agency. But the world has since moved beyond disaster relief, and emergency management now includes preparedness, response, recovery, and then reduction. We also notice that disaster management in the present times is also tied into development, which involves so many activities that are only organized by constituted and well-managed emergency management schemes. Levels 1 and 2 disasters are assigned as the responsibility of the state and its local governments, which should first put the following in place as fundamental steps in developing response capacity for their assigned role. SEMA. Although the National Emergency Management Agency Act 12, 1999 does not provide for the constitution of emergency management agencies, but rather provides for committees, the recent increase in the rate of disasters and their attendant management complexities have made it imperative for states to establish agencies for the day-to-day administration of disaster-related activities. These agencies have the responsibilities to include to plan and implement all activities related to emergency preparedness, to plan for and respond to disasters by 1. Coordinating search and rescue and recovery in the state, carrying out evacuation, administering mass care, and then to plan and implement recovery programs, which should comprise rehabilitation and settlement where necessary. It should be responsible to the governor or the deputy. It should be adequately funded and the fund released properly when necessary. It should be equipped and be headed by and should be given the power to summon stakeholders for in times of emergency, especially when it comes to this. It's more important when it comes to requesting the assistance of the military, which has to do with the military support service to communities. The agency has to establish an emergency response center. That's to have a state emergency operations plan which determines what all the components of activities during emergencies. The plan, as we notice, is an integral part or a strategic document for managing disasters, with emphasis on the principles of incident command and control, and the use of support service organization, and had to pass through processes like notification, activation, support service areas which should be listed out and considered. And for want of time, we will skip the slides to page 6, where we have the organizations and their disaster-related responsibilities. That's what we're talking about, support service areas. We should also have a local emergency response plan, and this plan is expected to be put in place by large organizations where you have procedures for managing emergencies. And then if someone should come in as the coordinator who is acting at the board level. The state should have a contingency plan for disaster, and it should also establish a local emergency management committee. I want to inform you here that the Cross River State has all these arrangements in place. The state has a contingency plan, especially a contingency plan for the 1930 disasters for which we have been warned. The state has all the the local emergency management committees constituted. The grassroots emergency volunteer corps should also be supported by the states, and then the capacities of these states should be strengthened. The capacities of the states should comprise having adequate personnel on ground, giving them effective training, provision of adequate equipment, funding them properly, and then collaborating and networking with other stakeholders. Public education is very important, especially at these times that we have disasters that are moving close to cataclysm. We also need political will in the management of disasters. That means that the government should be willing to come out in compassionate spirit and be able to take bold decisions, and also set humanitarian activities as one of its priorities. Otherwise, one day the government will wake up and discover that all the citizens are dead and there is nobody to govern. Developing additional capacity is very important. Having developed the capacities of these constituencies, there is a need to bring them to a center point where they will begin to respond to capacities beyond their neutral states. And I can see the activities of the National Emergency Management Agency being a clear show of wisdom by the federal government, having to establish zonal offices and get them operational, and that's one of the aspects of the steps to take in developing additional capacity, because it is by the establishment of this zonal office that we are all here to brainstorm on the common predicament of the Niger Delta. We should ensure that all the states involved build their capacities and bring them together. The stakeholders forum should be built in each state where matters are discussed that have to do with disasters, and resources are planned to be put together when necessary. We should also think about establishing a regional data bank where we could go in and take and understand and also carry out functions that have to do with data for disaster management. We should also encourage the horizontal linkages and hazards, among the hazard management organizations. The disaster reaction units should be strengthened, and then disaster assessment teams should be set up for each region. Also, we should also not forget that a regional committee is very necessary. Regional disaster management committee is very necessary, where we should sit together and determine common disasters and make strong suggestions to the federal government or whichever state government to enable better management of such disasters in each of these constituent states. And because the microphone is puffing and blowing, I'd like to stop here and say thank you very much for listening.
Because of some important other duties, some of our dignitaries, including our distinguished senator, would like to take leave of the meeting, but all of us should continue to stay and finish that. And the deputy governor who is leaving together with very grateful for the honor you've done to us to be here throughout this time. And for Nigeria, because it was not previous nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen of the press.
Political crisis. 2015 is around the corner. I'm sure we've been hearing about all sorts of threats and hope. I mean, that's why I said the humanitarian landscape in Nigeria is changing rapidly. Please go to the next slide. Challenges we have in Nigeria, they are regional. So, like I mentioned to you, the issue of malnutrition, you can see the states in the north that are affected by the Sahel crisis, where children that are being treated for malnutrition. Go to the next one. We have intercommunal conflicts. This is endemic in the Middle Belt. We heard about the conflicts in Asaba State, the Jokon team. They are not going, they are still with us. So it's important for us to take cognizance of this humanitarian crisis. The next one, please. 3 states out of the 7 states in the country. The next one. The next one, please. Then the insurgency. You can see the 3 states that are affected. The information here is related, but I'm only using this to describe to you the current situation in the 3 states. We have conducted rapid assessment 3 times in this state and the neighboring states, and we've been able to confirm that there's huge influx because due to the insurgency and the activities of the military. And the information we got from FuseNet shows that it's highly probable that the people there will have problem of food insecurity because there's restriction of movement, curfew and all that. The next slide. Then political violence. You remember what happened in 2011? 2015 is around the corner. We're already hearing of all sorts of threats. The rally in Kaduna a few days ago, you remember what happened. We cannot run away from this. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't want us to talk about this, but I think as humanitarian actors, it's better for us to discuss about the humanitarian challenges we have in the country and the implications. And it is important for me to stress at this point that every action we take is in a way linked, has humanitarian implication. Okay, the next slide. Now, the various humanitarian challenges I've presented to you, they all have consequences. It leads to displacement, loss of lives, loss of means of livelihood, violation of rights, loss of property, refugee and insecurity. And I picked these pictures randomly to show to you the impact of the various humanitarian challenges that is confronting us in the country. The next slide. Now, NEMA is developing a platform that will help the government and humanitarian community to work together to address all the humanitarian crises I've shown to you. And on that note, NEMA has mobilized the humanitarian community. What do I mean by humanitarian community? You have the UN, you have the INGOs, you have the Red Cross movement, and NEMA has asked that we work together to develop a joint humanitarian action plan. So I'll take you quickly to what we mean by joint humanitarian action plan. The next slide. What is joint humanitarian action plan? It is a tool used by government and humanitarian community to plan, implement, and monitor their activities together. And it is also a tool that can be used to mobilize resources. Under the management of the new administration in NEMA, I mean, this is the first time we'll see a well-coordinated approach to humanitarian response. NEMA is working closely with the humanitarian community. This is the first time we are saying that there's a lot of engagement. The partnership between NEMA and humanitarian community in Nigeria is stronger under this present administration, and we want to congratulate the administration for doing that. And they are taking it forward by asking us to do this plan. Let's go to the next slide. Now, why do we need this joint humanitarian action plan? It helps us to present strategic approaches to humanitarian crisis. When the professor was making his presentation, he talked about ad hoc. We cannot respond to humanitarian crisis in an ad hoc manner. It must follow a principle. It's a science. You have to follow it. Because if you continue to adopt an ad hoc approach, the people that are suffering as a result of humanitarian crisis will continue to suffer. What is meant for them to help mitigate the impact of disaster on them will never work. That's why it's important for us to have this joint approach that will present a strategic approach to responding to emergency crisis. Then we're able to plan, coordinate, implement, and monitor response. The work of humanitarian response is not going to be for NEMA alone. There are a lot of actors that need to be involved. And the actors will be able to get involved when there is some form of joint planning. If you cast your mind back to what happened in 2012, it was not only NEMA that responded. The state actors responded. The United Nations responded. The UN brought in about $6.5 billion to respond in about 14 states. And we have the INGOs, the International Non-Governmental Organization. They brought in money from different sources to respond in different states. But if you look at the platform that we used last year, there was some form of dysfunctionality. That was why NEMA at some point had to organize what they call National Humanitarian Forum to bring together all the actors that are responding so that we can share ideas, we can share information. So it's important for that level of planning. Then we need, the joint plan also helps us to apply for funds cohesively. We all go, the international community particularly, we go to the same market to shop for funds. We go to the same donors. We go to the countries that give money for humanitarian support. So when we have this plan, it helps us to come together to go to the donors to collect money in a systematic manner so that there will be no competition. Then, okay, I mentioned that. Then to serve as inventory of priority humanitarian project proposals and a barometer for funding response. You know, when go to the next slide, approach, as we all know, when there's an emergency, it is not only food and non-food items we give to the displaced population. They need wash, they need health, they need education, they need logistics, protection. So when we have this plan, we are able to approach a sector-wide mechanism that will help us to look at all the different sectors so that our response to the needs of people that are affected will be effective. Go to the next one. The next slide. Now, how are we going to develop this plan? The first picture there shows, you can see people sitting around the table. It requires a lot of consultation. We need to involve all the government and humanitarian actors at the state, local, with federal, state, and local level. Then we need to understand what are the humanitarian challenges we have in the country, because there's no way we can properly plan if we don't understand the humanitarian challenges we face. I discovered that we talk a lot about flood. We hardly talk about other humanitarian challenges in the country. We are not given the same attention to conflict. People are displaced when there is conflict. Even in the Niger Delta, I'm sorry I didn't show you any map of the Niger Delta. Like the Prof was saying, people lose their means of livelihood when there is spillage. They cannot fish, they cannot farm. It leads to humanitarian crisis. So it is important for us to be clear about the humanitarian challenges in the country. Then we develop our plan. The plan will help us we look at the context, we come up with our priorities, and we look at what are the areas where we want to respond based on the various humanitarian challenges. Then we are going to launch the plan. And when we launch the plan, we will expect that both the government and private sectors, we put in resources, we put in money for us to be able to respond. And that is what we call predictable funding.
Some little restraint before you take your tea break. So shall you in the same vein who ask you to exercise more restraint before the lunch break. Of course, we are going to take the paper from Professor Dagogo Fubara, whose topic is River Hydrodynamics and Sea Level Monitoring for Flood Impact Control. A round of applause for the chairman, please. And we want to decivilianize the city. And in doing so, we shall accord the chairmanship of this brief paper presentation to Rear Admiral Stanley Ogogi. A round of applause for him. He is the representative of the Chief of Naval Staff. Another round of applause, distinguished ladies and gentlemen.
You do not understand its characteristics. So when they have the problem, they were very badly devastated. In effect, what am I saying? The same thing with the earthquake. When the earthquake occurs in the civilized, technological, and scientifically, in the prepared areas where they have studied the environmental characteristics, design codes for building and things like that, the same magnitude of earthquake that occurs in America or Japan does very little damage because of scientific preparation of structures. But when a similar earthquake or even less occurs in Iran or any of the other developed countries, when you read the papers or listen to news, you find that there is complete devastation that you cannot imagine. The simple reason is that those areas have not applied science and technology to monitor, document the characteristics of what they want to fight against or what they want to mitigate, and make preparations ahead of that. Some of you may not be aware that you travel through Holland. The Dutch airport at Amsterdam is below sea level, but they have so diked their areas that you wouldn't know they're living below sea level. And much of Holland is below sea level, so they have dikes and they have a preparedness of 5 years stock of the very large scale, the European scale. And one stop to establish monitoring stations, those things you see there, within the zone of the person of the mechanism. But you will notice that the last monitoring station established there is Antonita by the foreigners, not Africans. So it means that from Niger to the end, to the coast, that bear the brunt of all these things, There is no monitoring to gauge as to what is happening in order to predict and design systems to counter it. And now the flood, the river systems must be monitored, the tidal system must be monitored. The people in the Navy here understand what we're talking about. Unfortunately, you won't believe that. Whereas you need 18.6 years of monitoring of tide gauge to determine which level in this country. This country up till now has not had the will to establish tide gauge in a coastal zone to monitor tide in order to compute this thing. The oil companies do it just half-heartedly for whatever they're doing. So that is the region we're talking about. We're going to talk about what do you do in that region in order to prepare to monitor and combat the impact of flood. Next slide. Well, if you go to this one, we show the rainfall pattern. If you come to the Niger Delta, we're talking about rainfall pattern between 3,000 millimeters. In Brass, Baran, and Kobo, it's over 4,000 millimeters. Whereas all people go up to the other areas, they are really dry. Next slide. Well, in the paper we'll get some of these details. I'm not going to bother you because we don't have time. Next slide. Next slide. Go on, next slide. Next slide. These are data that the gathering. Those areas not of Monica, but none of the Niger Delta, that's why the Delta. Now, the Niger Delta is not rainfall. Here you see the kind of rainfall statistics to have. And but it rains all the way from January to December, even though the heavy rainy season is from about May to October. But if you look at the data you see there, every month it's raining. At the Kobo, it's nearly 4,000 millimeters on average. And it's over 4,000 millimeters, and Brass is about 10, and so on and so forth. The Jobo is over 4,000 millimeters, and there is rain every month, which was monitored. Now, one of the things, when we were in primary school many years ago, every primary school was a meteorological station. We get data for rain, we get data for wind. They lose our own important part. This is something we must go back to, because all that information is needed in order to analyze and predict these flows when they're supposed to come. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. Here is something that tells you about evaporation. If you look at the delta zone, you look at the annual rainfall, and you look at the evaporation. The evaporation is so small compared to the rainfall, and the ratio is less than half. Perhaps you come to the other parts of the country, you'll find that the rainfall is so small, the evaporation is so high, and that is the ratio. Now the difference between the evaporation and the amount of rainfall is one of the causes of flood. Next slide. The Niger Delta is a flat, swampy plain, full myriad of rivers and creeks. The topography and the soil and the hydrodynamics are things that must be monitored in order to design structures to combat the impact of flood. And I'm doing the statistics of this. And in that area, only about 30% is fit for human habitation. But if the Dutch are inhabiting places below sea level, and we told my Professor Yego who we are going to talk about, because of sea level rise, he talked about 20 kilometers. But my position is that if we do nothing about the sea level rise and combined together with subsidence, because the Niger Delta is subsiding because of withdrawal of oil and gas, at the same time the sea level is rising. So if the sea level is rising and the ground itself is subsiding, if we do nothing, in the next 3 decades, close to 40 kilometers of the area will be wiped out. You don't just evacuate people randomly. You are supposed to monitor the area coverage of the last mapping. Having mapped the place and determine the height of the floor, then you have the basis when you have warning to to tell people to evacuate without analyzing what happened. We have done it in the last one, and we are still not doing it. We have no basis for prediction and to evacuate people. Next slide. In December, since that day, nothing has happened. We expect the South to set up a technical committee to do this monitoring. We don't have to wait for the data to come from the Netherlands to do it for us, or to wait for the Niger test, which was done by the foreigners. You can see the names of those who did UNDP, European Commission, to come to monitor this for us. We must set up a committee of technical technocrats to do the necessary monitoring. Next one. So what we need to do, we need to establish impact agencies, which has said, and determine the charges, the volume of water, the flow velocity, sediment transport, cross-section bathymetry profile, the temperature of water and the salinity in the months, and I will send the students of our employees. If we establish impact agencies and this discharge measurement, at every impact place, we will have 4 or 5 people right around the clock, and then the next slide, it will give you some job. This is the proposal that we should monitor and link these technical stations to a station where the space agency and the American Space Agency will have a station in Toronto where we have established stations to monitor the ground. Now, in order to be able to monitor whether the paper has a lot of material that to be digested, but it is my recommendation that this summit ought to address the issue of having a South-South blood technical committee to reduce
erudite professor. Thank you very much for the smooth presentation. May I at this point request all the presenters to go back to the high table or the interactive session. We are in need of time, and we'll make the interactive session to be very brief. As you're aware, we've had listened to 4 of 5 presentations today. We'll have the interactive session for 1. We're going to combine the interactive session for the other 4 topics, namely the topic by Professor Charles Oyegu, involving an integrated disaster management strategy in the South-South, a regional approach in disaster risk reduction, developing a regional capacity for disaster response in the South-South zone, presented by Mr. Vincent Aqua. The overview by the UN rep, and the last presentation by Professor Dagogo, which was on river hydrodynamic and sea level monitoring.
As I sat down and listened to the 4 presentations and the UN document, I worry a bit that the system of emergency management, the way it is now, is that we sit down and wait for disasters to happen, and then we react to them. If we look at all the plans that are in place, they are talking about what do we do when something happens. I didn't hear much about what do we do to ensure that something does not happen. I will take a cue from the disaster of 2012, and we've had a lot of write-ups about them, about what happened. But I haven't seen any concrete action to show that we learned anything from that 2012 disaster. All we are announcing is that the 2013 will be worse than 2012. And then from 20...
From the clips we have we saw in the relief material that is always given under emergency situation. You know, we've been seeing bags of rice and other material, but I hardly see something like a truckload of cow, goat, and all of that. I don't know how this protein content probably is there, and the only person I did not see because of the fear of malnutrition, like one of the issues raised by the UN presented.
The concerns this section has generated, we really appreciate it, because the essence of this is to get people thinking and see how we can solve some of the problems we have on the ground. And to address the question of protein content for victims of disaster, from the presentation we are making, there's a procedure for provision of relief materials. Before relief materials are provided, the agency, NEMA, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, which includes all these stakeholders that have mandates to provide relief in disaster, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Water Resources, they go for assessment. They assess the level of destruction and the needs. And they assess needs, what's called need assessment. They identify the needs that are required to provide succor and relief to the affected victims or to the impacted population. And that will determine also the quantity and quality of what is required in that regard. And I can assure you that protein is actually taken into consideration because they provide a lot of protein content, materials, food items, and other such provisions that will help to stabilize the health and the protection need of the victims. So NEMA, during the assessment, this is taken into consideration and it's actually provided for. Thank you.
I listened to the lady who talked about relocation, but maybe I didn't make myself very clear. If you want in 1989, I led a team of 10 researchers to Holland to study how the Dutch are fighting their flood problem. And we paid a courtesy call on the Nigerian ambassador in The Hague. And he told us about the various engineering things that the Dutch were doing. But he said, with all this kind of problem in the Niger Delta, why don't you relocate the people and send them up north where there's no flood? For that time, they didn't know there would be flood in the north. But relocation is not really, I said that only 30% of the land in Niger Delta is still for this thing. Where do you just relocate people to? What we should be talking about is the engineering intervention like other people are doing in Denmark and the Mississippi Delta in the US. So,
the question about relocation is germane, and it will continue to come up until we find a durable solution. People live along the floodplain for different reasons. Some farm, some have some form of spiritual attachment to the river plain, and some, there's nowhere they really say that we are meeting the needs of the displaced population. Thank you.
What is happening now? My plan has been changed. We made the combined interactive session to go together. I'll take 2 more questions from the right before going to the left. Questions from any of the topics presented, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
From the lectures that have gone on, we saw that information, publicity is very important to the rural people because they need to know when to move when they have this kind of crisis. And as somebody rightly said, so there's a lot of sentimentality attached to where they live. And most times when we give this information to them, and eventually like what happened last year, using last year as an example, we had gone around, told the people, some moved, and we knew who they were and where they were. And when